Hello beautiful people, welcome to another video. I do apologize that it's been so long, but I was focusing on a lot of accelerated classes and this is what this video is going to be about. So I'm going to talk a little bit about my educational experience thus far, how my past educational experience versus now, my accelerated classes, how my classes are set up, and how I think this is going to translate to my desire to be in an accelerated nursing program, hopefully next year, as well as some of the things I've learned and the struggles I have, etc., etc. So previously, and I can say this now because I'm no longer there, previously I attended Rutgers University in New Jersey, from 2018 to 2021, so 3 years, and I went straight after high school, started college pretty much right away. I worked 2 jobs pretty much throughout that entire time, and it was a struggle. That's pretty much it. So those classes of course were in person, and as you know, COVID quarantine happened and then we went online. At that time I really struggled with online because I was also working 2 jobs, and at that particular time there was like greater pressure placed on me intrinsically and extrinsically by my family. My mom had been put off of, she was on furlough. So basically with me working 2 full-time jobs, I had this pressure to kind of provide more for my family and contribute more. Not to say I was like the sole provider or anything, but there was a lot of, again, intrinsic and extrinsic pressure to work as hard as I could. So I was basically working 80 hours a week while also doing classes online. And I think at the time, I should probably look at my transcript. I think I was taking like 4 or 5 classes. So it was a lot. It was definitely a lot, and throughout my college career I pretty much maintained that like 3 to 4 class range. There was like one semester I think I took less because I didn't have a car and the schedule would have been weird in that like I would have had to take Uber because I was taking Uber to school like for one day for one class, and it just wasn't worth it. So all that being said, basically I had in-person experience and online experience during a very stressful time in my life, and then 2021 was my junior year. After my junior year I stepped out of college. That was more extrinsic pressure because my parents didn't like the idea of me getting the COVID vaccine, and it was supposed to be like a temporary step back, step out, and then you'll go back later. Well, a lot happened since then, and I've only recently, as in last year, returned for my final year of college, and honestly I don't regret that. You know, as much as a lot of it was extrinsically motivated and out of my control, it felt like, when I was finally in control and able to take hold of my own financial aid and being an independent student, being an adult student, it's been a lot easier for me to just move forward with my goals educationally for myself. So I'm not mad at it. I've experienced a lot of things in my gap years, so to speak, and I've been able to travel across the United States. I've been able to live in a really cool place and move twice by myself. So it's been a great journey. I say all that to say, then my grades were fine. My grades, like, I think I'm pretty much maintained like a 3.2 GPA by the end of my time at Rutgers, and now I have a 4.25 GPA, and I take online classes that are in an accelerated format. So now we're going to talk about now. I attend Arizona State University. I don't mind saying that because I'm gonna graduate in like 2 months. I attend online, so that was a great process. So I lived in Arizona for about a year and a half, and I tried one other university that was in Oregon online. Turns out it's not really an accredited university, so I kind of wasted one semester there. And then a little bit later in the year, fall 2025, I was like, why not try ASU? So I literally applied just for the heck of it. I wasn't like convinced I was gonna get in. For me, I was like, I want to finish my degree. At that point, I was playing around with naturopathic medicine as my career path versus nursing. You'll see I have a lot of herbalism and stuff because I have an interest in herbalism. And I still kind of feel like I'm gonna go that path after nursing, maybe later on, but I knew I wanted to finish my bachelor's degree first before I move on to a doctorate program, before I move on to another bachelor's, whatever I end up doing. So applied to ASU, got accepted like immediately, which was crazy to me. Applied for financial aid, got financial aid. So yeah, and the way that ASU is formatted is very different from any college I know of. So they have one semester. It's split into 2 or 3 sessions. So there's A, B, and C. A and C are pretty much the same length. I think C is a little bit longer. I'm not too sure because I've never done a C session. And then A and B are like the first half of the semester and the second half of the semester. And then the classes, you have 2 different sets of classes within those sessions that are each 7.5 weeks long. So basically every class that you're taking is an accelerated class. Hence why the title of this is my experience with, accelerated classes. And so last semester I had 3 classes per session, which is the normal. And so 6 classes in the semester. And this semester, plus I was taking 1 additional class at another university online for organic chemistry lab because I was adamant that I wanted to graduate this spring and not have to take that lab in the summer. So yeah, so I took 7 classes last semester. This semester I'm also taking 7 classes because I decided I wanted to take 4 classes this past session, which just ended, and 3 classes in the next session. And all of this is so I can graduate sooner, within 1 year, because I only had 1 year left. I don't want to spend more than a year in undergrad. And 2, my nursing prereqs required nutrition and developmental psych. And I thought at first I could only take 3 classes in each session, found out I can do more. And I didn't want to have to do another class separately again because it was going to cost way more. So all that, basically 7 classes, right? Okay. 7 classes, all accelerated. I had, this is now my second semester, second half of the semester, and I've learned a lot about myself in this experience. First is that I hate accelerated courses. And I say this lightheartedly because obviously I am planning to apply to an accelerated nursing program. But yeah, I genuinely dislike it because it feels like you barely get time to breathe. And I say that from the perspective of these are undergrad courses. They aren't directly related to each other whatsoever. I'm a science major, but I'm taking English, I'm taking history, both prereqs, basically meaning prerequisites for graduation based on ASU. So some classes I've had to repeat, some classes I aced out of through AP, but now I've taken it again. I'm taking history classes, I'm taking poli-sci classes, there's a lot of classes I'm taking that I don't necessarily want to do. I'm grateful that I am because, again, I'm learning a lot of things that I otherwise wouldn't have. But my intrinsic motivation is very low for some of these classes, and that is one of my biggest struggles. That's one of the biggest things I've learned, is that it is so much harder for me to motivate myself for things that I don't want to do. And I've said before that I may have ADHD, and I don't have a diagnosis for it, but I've kind of had these like out-of-body experiences of like observing myself when I've been doing certain classes over the past few weeks, and my attention is gone so quickly, and it is purely motivation based, or purely like I need to meet this deadline, or I need to do this today. So I think both with my prior college experience at Rutgers, online plus work, and my work schedule now are my time pressures that keep me in check, basically. So I've learned to adapt to different class schedules. I'm very used to previously every class had pretty much the same structure. Yes, we had different instructors, we had different things, but we weren't like dependent on Canvas in person. We weren't so dependent on like online tools. We did everything in labs, we did everything in class. You had homework, yes, you had essays, but you had like weeks, you know, like a week or two before that assignment was due. Whereas now, every single week, quizzes, exams, assignments, discussions. And I feel like with online, there's a little more work and a little more pressure with discussions than you would have in person, because, you know, in class we're all raising our hand, we might be talking to each other. In a discussion, some classes have the format where you have to wait for someone else to respond to you before you continue, or you have to respond to 2 different peers. I hate that stuff. But basically, like, learning to adapt to different classes, different class styles has been a big thing for me, different class schedules. Not everything is due on the same day, and it drives me insane. The little mini semester I had at a different college, all of the due dates were on Sunday at 11:59. It was so easy. It was so focused. Like, I knew that every single class, every single assignment that is in my Canvas is due on Sunday, and I could work on it throughout the week. With all these different sessions and classes, it's different due dates, different sets of assignments, different types of assignments. And, you know, you might be watching this like, Nadine, that's totally normal. That's like, duh. But I'm like, yeah, but when you have a schedule, okay, I have my 9 to 5, my 3 to 11:30 evening job. That's a chunk of my week just at work. And I've started taking my iPad with me to work to do readings and stuff. Then you have lecture readings, lectures, assignments, readings, PowerPoints for any number of classes. And a lot of these classes had like 50 to 100 pages of readings. And now for me, I am very much task oriented, and I'm also on a strict deadline, and I have 4 classes. So I need to meet the deadline for each individual class, but I also need to do the tasks and assignments for each individual task. So it's been a journey of like figuring out where to work harder and not, or where to work smarter and not harder. So literally figuring out within like the second week, okay, for nutrition, I don't need to read the textbook. I started off taking textbook notes. That first week and a half of all my classes, I was reading the textbook for every single class. I was reading the line of every single reading for my poli-sci class. I was like trying to annotate, take notes for everything. And it was driving me insane. I was exhausted by the first week. End of the first week, I was like, and I entered into one class later because it was a class I was trying to get into when an opening came up. So it was just like, by that first week, I'm pretty sure I had like 300 pages of readings and assignments combined. And I was like, how am I gonna do this? And now that it's done, I can say I did it. I got an A in every class. Pretty sure my 4.0, 4.2 GPA will go up. But it was definitely harder. meeting discussion deadlines, there were, I would say at this point, my rhythm, my routine has become trying to submit everything early. For one, I designated certain days to do things. When I have, like, maybe if I finished nutrition early in the week, I would then focus on my Africana class, Intro to Africana Studies, and then I had my poli-sci class. It was kind of poli-sci. It was history of American health institutions, but it was like government institutions and government systems. And then I had my developmental biology class. So the due dates were all scattered throughout the week. Oftentimes I was doing due dates the day of or the day before. I hate doing things the day of. I like to have things done at least the day before, because I don't like doing doing assignments up to the last minute. So any scrap of time I had at work, before work, after work, obviously, I was doing as many assignments. I was writing the essays, I was doing the discussions. I started skim reading, or just like reading the questions first and then looking for the answer rather than reading the entire thing. That isn't the best practice if you're doing like your core study, because in nursing school I feel like I would want to read all of the text that I can, but I probably won't be reading like the textbook for every single class if I can help it. I probably won't be, obviously I don't know the full setup of nursing school. I wish someone would talk about that. I feel like, we assume nursing school is one way, but then I hear the occasional short or something where someone's saying, oh, we have essays, and I'm like, you have essays in nursing school? I would not have expected that at all. I expect you're doing math and anatomy and anyway. So yeah, like also figuring out my learning style, which I have varied learning styles per class. Some classes I need to listen to the information, write it down, go through all the learning styles. I need to hear it, I need to see it, I need to, like, as I'm writing or rewriting notes and highlighting, that's like my tactile, and I can see it and I can like speak it out loud to myself. Some classes, perfect. Other classes, I only have to listen. I get it, I'm good. Especially if it's a class where it's maybe recall. If I'm listening to the information, more often than not, I will remember it rather than reading it on a page for some reason. Which is why I miss in-person lectures, because I feel like I hooked onto information so much easier by watching the lecture in front of me, whereas on a computer screen, I am not getting that same feedback. I'm not being able to answer questions out loud. I'm not being able to raise my hand and ask a question or listen to other questions being asked. So that's one place where I'm like struggling, because I'm not getting the sensory feedback of a classroom. And I feel like being in person also gave me that context of a learning environment to keep me focused, right? Like if I have a professor in front of me, I'm not going to be on my phone. But if I have my laptop here, I have my phone here, I have my iPad here, I'm going to get distracted by every single notification that goes off. I have to, again, intrinsic motivation, I have to mentally force myself to say, I am in the class right now, this is my focus. And again, for some people that might be totally easy. Sometimes for me, I pick up my phone to do something or to look something up or whatever as like an external monitor or whatever, and I find myself getting distracted. I'm more likely to use my laptop and my iPad to keep me focused, because those are my work productivity tools, those are my school productivity tools, whereas my phone is just distraction. If I pick it up to use a calculator, more than likely I'm gonna be on Instagram or YouTube in like 2 seconds. So with that, I've started trying to like use separate devices. So I have like a physical calculator in here. If I find that my mind is wandering, I might switch to like handwriting, although I've switched back to my iPad several times. And I know I'm rambling at this point, but yeah, I've basically learned that I struggle with accelerated classes. It's both fun because you get through the information so much faster. By the time you're like, oh my god, I wish this was over, it's pretty much over, right? But in it, it's like, oh my god. And I can only imagine being in a nursing school environment trying to take in this information and being either overwhelmed or completely fine. Like, there's no in between. Like, the first week, I am overstimulated by all my classes, all the different things I have to do, trying to adjust myself and adjust my schedule to each class, trying to meet deadlines and try to figure out when in the week, what times I'm going to be working on different things. But I also find that I adjust pretty quickly. After that first week, I get into that rhythm a lot faster after my first session of my first semester. So I will say that is a benefit. Now that I've experienced accelerated classes, I think in nursing school, my accelerated program that I plan to apply to, that I'll find it to be a lot easier and a lot quicker for me to adjust. But in a 7.5 week class, 1 week just to adjust might be too much. And again, I've also heard, I follow a lot of nursing content creators, so I find that very helpful. But I've also heard it like joked about, like by the time you start nursing school, you're already behind because there's already assignments that you had to do before you even started. However, I already have the habit, just because I'm kind of a nerd in that regard, of like, as soon as the materials come out, I'm looking at it, I'm reading it, I'm focusing on it. I want to be ahead as soon as I start. I get really frustrated when, classes open up on campus the day of the semester. Like, I needed you to open 5 days ago so I could get started. But yeah, also with the online classes, it's been helpful in some classes where I can work ahead. I don't know if I'll be able to do that in nursing school. I don't know if it'll be mostly hybrid. I don't know if it'll be mostly in person. I plan on attending like info sessions in the summer to find out more about nursing school, the nursing school I'm applying to, in terms of like their formats, their clinical formats, all these things. But yeah, to recap, I know it's kind of all over the place. I've learned about my struggles with focus and with motivation. Inherently, I know what I should do to like make it easier, make it better. I just sometimes choose not to. Like, I know I should probably keep my phone over on my bedside table across the room and it's not near me, right? But then I take a break, I get it back, and then I'm sitting at my desk with my phone and it's like an hour has passed and I'm like, oh yeah, I was doing this thing. So with that though, I can also be inherently motivated by just finishing a task. So as much as I might get distracted, like if I am like, okay, I need to get this done tonight, I've created the due date for myself that this has to be done tonight or today if I have a day off. These things have to be done today. And a lot of times that will keep me focused. It might take me the whole day to get it done, but it will get done today. And that is like my way of keeping myself focused. And again, I don't wait for when it's due to submit something if I can help it. If it's due next week and if it's opened, exams, quizzes, they tend to open on the day. But if it's open for a week, I'm getting it done in those first 2 to 3 days. I don't want it to be like, I don't want to wait till the due date. Discussions, unfortunately, some of them, I have to wait for responses. And if I'm the first one, it's both a blessing and a curse because I can get it done. I've done it, but now I have to wait for other people to respond for me to finish the assignment. Secondly, routines and rhythm, establishing routines, establishing a rhythm, creating a schedule. I am not super type A in that I have to put everything in a calendar. When I do that, I tend to ignore it a lot of the time. I'll put deadlines into my calendar. I'll sync my calendar to my Canvas to my calendar, see my due dates. That to-do list on Canvas is a godsend because I go through it like that, right? But to say time blocking for every single task, that's not gonna work for me. There is power in saying, okay, this is going to take me an hour, because you can trick your brain into doing it faster. Sometimes that works for me, sometimes it does not work for me. So these are all things I need to work on. I need to work on my focus mainly. I need to work on my motivation, being intrinsically and extrinsically motivated. I don't have a lot of extrinsic motivation besides like time pressures or schedule. You know I have to go to work tomorrow. I have, like, my bedtime is usually around 3:30 a.m. Between now and 3:30 a.m. I'm going to do this assignment. I want to finish it before I go to work, or before I go to sleep, because I'm not gonna get up early before work. So this is my time, right? And if I can't get it done tonight, then I'm gonna have to wake up early to finish it, right? Or I'm gonna bring it to work with me and go to work early, get some time in there. I've learned to also be flexible with my schedule. If I can like bring something to work with me, I will bring it to work with me. That's where the iPad comes in to be useful, because I can carry it with me. I shouldn't be carrying it with me while I'm actively working, but we have like a housekeeping cart, and I will keep it like in my cart, and when there's downtime that's not a break, I will often sometimes look through readings or listen to a lecture. If it's something where I can have it on my phone and listen to it, I'll listen to it that way. Just little things like that have also helped me at least get ahead and maintain my deadlines. Creating routines. I won't say that I worked on things the exact same day, exact same time every week, but I got into a rhythm of knowing when things were due and prioritizing. My biggest motivator with like the time thing is prioritization. So I have to organize things by high priority to low priority. If the due date is sooner, it's high priority. However, if let's say I have 2 things due the same day, or maybe one thing's due sooner, but I know for a fact this is not going to take me that long to do. This is going to take me like 10-15 minutes. Like for my Africana class, some weeks I had a lot of reading or several hours of videos to watch. That would be high priority because it's taking me the longest to do. I need to get it out of the way. Other weeks, it only was like, watch this 10-minute video, write a discussion post. Boom, I'll be done in like 15-20 minutes. Write this essay, 600 words, that's 2 pages. Most of the time, I can finish it in about an hour and a half, which is a long time for me, but depending on what the subject or topic was, it would take me. But that class, for me, was low priority because the work was pretty much quick. My history of American institutions class was kind of a medium priority because there would be a lot of reading, but the assignments were pretty much the same thing every week. I knew what was due, I knew when to start things so I could finish it. Medium priority. Annoying, tedious, but not super high priority. Nutrition and not developmental bio. I think I said that earlier. It's not developmental biology. Cellular biology. Cellular biology and nutrition were my 2 biggest classes, biggest course, like content heavy classes. However, nutrition had a ton of assignments, easy, quick. Like a ton of assignments, but I could do them in like 10 minutes each. And for the exams and quizzes, open book, no problem. That means I could read the textbook passively while I'm at work, on my breaks, before bed, whatever. I could like read it on my iPad, good, it'll be done. Cellular biology, 1 quiz, 1 exam. Well, 1 quiz every week, or 2 quizzes, and 3 exams every 2 weeks, an exam for all my classes. That was the hard part. This was my first semester, my first session, where I had every single class had an exam every 2 weeks. It was painful. However, again, nutrition, open book. Cool. Cellular biology was honor lock, proctored, but you could do a 1-page full of notes. My first exam didn't take any notes because I didn't have time. I literally ran out of time and decided to do it as soon as it opened, right after work. I did well, but not. I crammed. If anything, this semester taught me how to cram effectively because cellular biology, every single exam, let's say it opened on a Monday, Saturday and Sunday, I was cramming. I was re-listening to lectures. I was going through the PowerPoints all over again, and that was the way I passed. And it worked for me. I wasn't like freezing mentally or anything. I could remember what I had studied because it was fresh in my mind. And I think, yeah, that definitely really helped me. And then the second and third exams, when I actually made the study guides, I don't know if it will show up. Look how small I wrote. This is the third exam. This is the one I wasn't confident in, and I wrote every single word of every single PowerPoint on that paper. And I did well. So I learned how to cram, and I learned how to do it well. I don't know if I would do that in nursing school, but I might have to because I plan on working. So yeah, I've been rambling for 32 minutes. I apologize. And then the last one of my learning style, I learned that I don't have one single learning style. I have several different scenarios where I can learn differently, and some scenarios where I need to listen to things multiple times before they clicked. I also experienced a lot of brain fog this session, and I had to really figure out how I was going to overcome that. So sometimes that meant listening to lectures, rewinding multiple times, which I know you can't do in person, rewinding a bunch of times. Like, there were some times where I was just like not clicking for me, and part of that was due to not being entirely focused. I find that sometimes if I repeat the words as it's being said, I grasp it quicker. I don't know if anyone else has that experience, but yeah, that was, yeah. So, yeah, that is what I've learned from my accelerated classes. I may or may not make another video on this because I feel like I rambled quite a bit. But yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.